Daniel Price wiped a sheen of sweat from his brow as he left a corporate building in Salt Lake City. His sales presentation had dragged longer than expected, and now he faced a night drive across a lonely stretch of Utah highway to his next appointment. He glanced at the setting sun, cursing the missed chance to travel during daylight. He slid behind the wheel of his rental car, flipping through radio stations in search of something more engaging than static. Nothing but distant country music and scratchy talk radio. With a sigh, he merged onto the interstate. The map app promised an empty desert route for hours. As the city lights faded in his rear view, the sky deepened to dusky purple. Desert scrubland stretched on either side, an endless tapestry of rock and sand. Occasional silhouettes of buttes loomed against the horizon. Daniel felt both awed by the vastness and uneasy. The highway ahead shimmered in the final twilight. He checked the time, 8:15 p.m. He planned to drive until midnight, find a motel near the next city. At least traffic was non-existent. Flicking on his headlights, he settled into the monotony of nighttime driving. Half an hour later, in the dying light, Daniel spotted a stationary vehicle on the highway shoulder. Its hazard lights flashed weakly. He slowed, concerned about a stranded motorist, but saw no movement inside. Normally, he might have pulled over to help, but something about the scene made him hesitate. Maybe the utter stillness of the occupant's seat, or the creeping sense of emptiness outside. He continued on, promising to call roadside assistance once he got a signal. The car receded into his mirrors, disappearing in darkness. The radio crackled, offering no clarity. With a shrug, Daniel pressed on, telling himself it was likely abandoned. About 30 minutes later, a feeling of déjà vu pinched his mind. Up ahead, flashing hazard lights emerged on the shoulder. Another broken-down vehicle. As he neared, confusion set in. It looked identical to the car he'd passed earlier. Same shape, same dark color, same faint glow of hazard lights. He slowed, brow furrowed. The license plate, from what he could see, seemed the same. Had the driver tried to move and broken down again? He scanned the roadside for any sign of a person. Nothing. Heart pounding slightly faster, he continued on, deciding not to stop this time. In the rear view, the car shrank away. Soon, the highway returned to silent emptiness. Time marched on. The desert night pressed around him. Daniel's phone reception dropped to 0 bars. The stars overhead sparkled fiercely. Another half hour passed, 9:15 now. Then, unbelievably, he glimpsed the same broken-down car once more. The hazard lights were off this time, but the silhouette was unmistakable. Blah. He pulled over, bracing his nerves. The eerie repetition was too much. He had to see for himself if it was the same car. Exiting, he felt the hot night breeze brush his face. The wide desert sky offered no comfort, just an expanse of darkness. He approached the driver's side window. Empty seats, faint smell of dust. On the dashboard, a single piece of paper. He reached through the open window and snatched it up, heart thudding. In shaky handwriting, it read, "Don't stop next time." Daniel felt goosebumps spread. He hurried back to his car, speeding off down the highway. The note in his passenger seat felt like a threat or a warning. He told himself it was a twisted prank, but deep inside, dread churned. He drove faster, glancing anxiously at the time, 9:25 p.m. The highway slithered through the desert. Shadows of distant rock formations flickered in his peripheral vision. No billboards or rest stops. Another 30 minutes ticked by. Daniel's eyes drooped with fatigue, adrenaline wearing thin. Then, to his mounting horror, his headlights illuminated that same abandoned car by the roadside once again. Its shape was half-lit, the windows dark, driver's door cracked open. He swallowed, gripping the wheel. This can't be real. He pressed the accelerator, breezing past it at speed, refusing to look. Yet, from the corner of his eye, he saw the note still perched on the dash, the paper's outline flickering in his headlights. He realized the miles he drove didn't matter. The highway repeated itself, or something was pulling him into a loop. He felt trapped, uncertain how to break free. Midnight approached. Daniel had lost track of how many times he'd passed the same car. 4 times? 5? The monotony of desert darkness made everything blur. He considered turning around, heading back, but fear of encountering the car in reverse unsettled him more. Suddenly, he spotted something else, faint tire tracks veering off to a dirt road. Could that lead to a town or gas station? He took the exit, hoping to find an alternate route. But the dirt path ended abruptly at a locked gate. No sign of habitation. Frustrated, he reversed back to the highway, the desert wind rustling mesquite bushes around him. As he merged onto the highway again, the clock read 11:45 p.m. Surely, I should have reached another settlement by now. But the signage remained the same, the route seemingly unchanging. Panic bubbled. At exactly midnight, the car reappeared. This time, it wasn't on the shoulder, but partially in the right lane, forcing Daniel to slow drastically to avoid collision. The headlights revealed an empty driver's seat, door still ajar. The same note visible on the dash, "Don't stop next time." But beyond that, in the faint glow, he glimpsed movement near the trunk. A shape crouched there. Or maybe it was a trick of the light. When he blinked, it vanished. His hands shook on the steering wheel, heart hammering. He sped away, mind racing. That note told me not to stop. But what if something changed? He rummaged in the glove compartment, hoping for any clue or phone number. No signal on his phone still. The car's GPS was useless, the map showing a single highway line with no side roads or towns. As if the rest of the map was wiped out. An idea struck him. He decided to mark the highway physically, see if he truly was looping. He pulled over at a random mile marker, found a can of spray paint in the trunk. He used it for marking boxes in business shipments. He drew a large X on the road's shoulder, bright red. Then he drove on, anxiously waiting for half an hour to pass. Time crept. 12:30 a.m. Sure enough, the deserted car materialized again, hazard lights faint. He scoured the shoulder for his red X, and there it was, the same symbol, unmistakable. The highway was repeating. He was indeed trapped in some twisted loop. He felt tears sting. This defied all logic. He hammered the steering wheel, cursing. He switched the car radio from static to searching for any station. Faintly, he picked up a garbled broadcast, a female voice reciting numbers. 42, 30, 11. Then it cut out. He tried scanning. Another station played old country music that quickly warped into static. He turned it off, unsettled by the cyclical nature of everything around him. He next tried the car's emergency channel. No response. "Mayday," he said half-jokingly into the microphone. Only crackles. Then, softly, the line squealed. A voice, reminiscent of his own, whispered, "Don't stop next time." He hurled the mic away, goosebumps flaring. Even the radio repeated the message. At 1 a.m., he approached the car once more. Something changed. The passenger door stood wide open, as if inviting him inside. His headlights captured a figure behind the wheel. Daniel's pulse skyrocketed. Before it was empty. Now there's someone. The occupant wore a dark jacket, face obscured by shadow. He slowed involuntarily, mouth dry. The figure turned its head, meeting his gaze. The headlights caught half a face, a pale cheek, lips curved in a slight smile. Fear rattled Daniel's bones. The figure raised a hand, beckoning. He recalled the note's warning, "Don't stop next time." But curiosity warred with terror. He forced the gas pedal down, swerving around the broken-down car. As he passed, he glimpsed a new piece of paper pinned to the rear window. One word scrawled, "Soon." The loop continued. 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. Each cycle, the car reappeared, each time with some slight difference. Lights flickering, doors shifting. The occupant's posture. The change changed. Once, Daniel saw it leaning forward, as if rummaging in the glove box. Another time, the occupant stood by the trunk, facing the highway. Each pass, it seemed to watch him more intently. He no longer bothered marking the shoulder. The same X greeted him each time, mocking him. Exhaustion pressed on him like a heavy blanket. He fought to keep his eyes open, afraid if he slept, he'd wake to something worse. Eventually, a faint glow touched the eastern sky. The notion of dawn gave him hope. Perhaps the loop would break with the new day. Indeed, the horizon brightened, revealing the desert landscape in a grim, pale light. At 5:45 a.m., on the next pass, the occupant of the car was outside, leaning against the trunk. Daniel slowed, transfixed by the silhouette. The figure wore a business suit, eerily similar to Daniel's. The desert wind ruffled its hair. As Daniel approached, the figure slowly lifted an arm, pointing directly at him. The gesture was accusatory, as if saying, "You." A surge of defiance flared in Daniel. Enough. He braked, ignoring every alarm bell. The occupant's warning to not stop next time battered his mind. But he needed answers or an end to this. He parked behind the broken-down car, engine idling. The figure watched quietly. Daniel climbed out of his car. The early dawn cast long shadows across the asphalt. The occupant stood about 50 feet away. Daniel's heart thumped violently. "Hey," he called, voice cracking. "What's going on?" No verbal response. The occupant turned, letting Daniel see his face. Shock jolted him. It was his face. The occupant had Daniel's exact features. Same hair, same stubble, same anxious eyes, only drained of color, like a worn copy. Daniel's mind reeled. "This can't be real," he whispered. The occupant wore a near-identical suit, though dusty, as if left in the desert for days. The occupant's lips parted, forming a silent message. Then, in a voice like Daniel's, but hollow, it spoke. "We trade." Daniel froze. "What do you mean?" The occupant stepped forward, rummaging inside the car. It retrieved another note, tossing it onto the ground. Then it pointed at Daniel's own car. The occupant's face twisted in something akin to pleading or demanding. He approached the occupant slowly, picking up the note from the ground. The scrawl read, "You want out, I want in. Let me drive your route." Fear spiked. The occupant was basically offering a deal. If Daniel gave it the chance to drive his car, maybe the loop would break. But the occupant looked more and more like a wraith, incomplete or drained. Daniel realized it wanted to take his place, to slip into the real world as him. "No, I can't let that happen." He stepped backward, shaking his head. The occupant's expression darkened. "This is my route now," it rasped in Daniel's exact voice. The sky brightened with dawn, but the occupant seemed unaffected. Daniel decided to flee, ignoring any attempt at negotiation. He sprinted back to his car, hearing footsteps behind him. The occupant gave chase, though not quickly, as if limping. He gunned the engine, squealing away down the highway. Momentarily, he believed he'd outrun the occupant. But less than 30 minutes later, the car reappeared again, occupant behind the wheel. A wave of despair threatened to crush him. There's no escaping this highway. He considered turning off the road entirely, driving into the desert. Risk or not, it might break the pattern. So he took a sudden right, plowing over the scrub. The car bounced violently, dust pluming around him. He pressed onward, away from the asphalt. But soon, the terrain grew too rough. Rocks clanged under the car's chassis. After a few miles, he reconnected with the highway again, somehow. The desert did not yield. And there, the same car sat waiting, occupant standing by the door, arms folded. Weary, Daniel screeched to a halt a few hundred yards away. The occupant strolled toward him, hands raised as if in negotiation. Daniel, trembling with adrenaline, rolled down his window slightly. The occupant, now close enough, whispered in Daniel's voice, "Let me go." "I don't know how," Daniel cried. "I'm stuck too." The occupant leaned in, eyes glinting with desperation. Trapped in a loop, one must remain, another can escape. Daniel realized with horror that if he let the occupant take his place, he'd be bound to that car, stuck on this highway forever. Or was that the occupant's fate? The occupant repeated, "Trade with me." He refused. He revved the engine, lurching forward, nearly clipping the occupant. The occupant snarled, face twisting in rage. As Daniel sped away, he glimpsed the occupant in the rear view, contorted mouth letting out a silent scream. He drove. The sun rose fully, painting the desert gold. The loop must end when daylight was strong, he prayed it would. Mile markers blurred. At last he saw a new sign, "Next town, 10 miles." A wave of relief, finally a sign of life. He pressed on, speed climbing. But behind him, in the rear view, the occupant's car followed, impossibly closing the distance. He recognized the silhouette behind the wheel, his own face. Mile after mile, the occupant's pursuit gained. Daniel's gas gauge dipped precariously. He steeled himself for a final confrontation. "I won't be replaced." Then he spotted a crossroads, a sign pointing to a small county highway. He jerked the wheel onto it. The occupant's car tried to follow, but hesitated. At that moment, Daniel felt a rip in the air, as if reality was shifting. The occupant's car flickered, then vanished behind a mirage of heat haze. Suddenly, the desert opened into normal farmland. A gas station appeared on the horizon. The loop ended. Daniel reached the gas station, trembling. He got out, phone buzzing with a restored signal. He realized he'd been stuck for nearly 10 hours. The station attendant greeted him. Everything was normal. The occupant, the loop, the repeated highway, gone. He never saw that broken-down car again. But he carried the memory of the occupant's face, his face, shadowed in rage, demanding a trade. He told no one the full story, only claiming car trouble on the desert highway. Yet at night, he still dreams of that endless asphalt, the occupant's eyes reflecting his own. He wonders who or what the occupant once was, how long it had been trapped in that bizarre loop, waiting for a new victim to trade places. A part of him fears that if he ever returns to that highway in Utah, he'll find the occupant waiting once more, wearing his suit and face, with a note on the dashboard reading,